this too, honestly. Fuck it. And then we are gonna switch it to Monsoon. I already beat the game with her the other day, so I got this skin. That's pretty sick. It's the original skin. This is the skin when you beat it. And then I still got to do a couple of these. Holy shit! Deal 50,000%, 500%. What the fuck? I don't know numbers, guys. I'm sorry. Fucking yeah, that's crazy. What the hell? All right. But I'm not gonna choose this character right now. I still want to beat the game with Artificer, through the Meridian run. So that's kind of what we're gonna be doing today, and just talking some bullshit along the side, I suppose. I don't know. Let's see. What are we gonna be talking about? Let's talk about some crazy stuff that's been up in my mind, right? So, they've been able to like clone shit since like the 90s, right? Like the first successful cloning or whatever, or the first like successful reported cloning, right? I don't know how long they've been doing it before that shit, right? But that's when they reported it was in the 90s, right? So, there was like a sheep or so. Oh damn! Oh damn! I didn't expect everybody to fucking come up all at once. So yeah, there was a sheep in the 90s, and that sheep, I forget what the hell it had, like a name. You know what I mean? Like everything else or something. I don't know. But yeah, they cloned the sheep, and fuck, Jesus Christ, these guys are getting me. And then obviously they kept working on that stuff in the background or whatever the fuck, and then you get to today, right? And they're doing all this stuff with like 3D printing. They're 3D printing cells, 3D printing like organs. You know what I mean? And like that's just kind of like you think about the cloning stuff, right? And you're like, okay, well if they could clone like animals, right? And I mean, let's be honest, right? Like I know we're all like separated from reality a bunch, right? And people are like, "Oh, I'm like a human and whatnot," and I live in a city and blah 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 and all that other great stuff, right? But it's like we're still animals, right? We're just animals that build cities and do all this other crazy shit, right? And if you were like a third party, like whatever, an alien or whatever, right? Looking at this planet, like never seen it before, you're like, oh, that's what these creatures do, right? These creatures, they build little, nests in the ground and make little hills with dirt and blah blah blah. They have chambers, they got a queen and all that shit. These animals do, they block up like rivers, and they create little like whatever the hells, and they bite wood and all that shit. And then these animals right here, they build these mega structures or whatever the hell, and all this other crap, right? So that's kind of just what humans do, right? It's just a natural thing. 'Cause people will always be like, oh, it's like artificial and this and that. And it's just like, there's not, nothing's really artificial in the sense that, we all exist, in an enclosed system, which is Earth, so we're all part of nature, right? So it's like anything that we create is just as natural than, anything, any other creature would make, right? Like a nest or a beehive or any other thing like that, right? It's just we just figured out like the materials to do all this crap, right? Mud, whatever the hell, right? So yeah, you know what I mean. Oh crap, these guys are getting us. We gotta watch out because there's a guy with grenades or like little electric grenades. Those things, yeah, those little bastards. He's fucking. Hold on, let me. Come at me! Oh fuck! Oh fuck! He got my ass. All right, so what was I talking about? Yeah, like you know what I mean. Like it's anything that humans do. It's like sort of like a natural progression of just like how we're going, right? Aside from like the other conspiracies, right? That like we actually have had like alien intervention or all that other bullshit, right? But how was I connecting this with the fuck? I'm a little retarded right now. Sorry, the gameplay's fucking me up. But yeah, like I was talking about the cloning, right? So yeah, like exactly. We were talking about how humans are just part of the same system as everything else, so we're not really that much special. Again, aside from like the other conspiracies of like third party intervention, whatever the hell, right? But yeah, so if they clone this fucking sheep, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. Like, humans are humans, right? Like the any system, government or not, right? Like, it's comprised of humans. So, humans are what humans are, right? And if we know human history, you know what I mean? Like, there's no shortage of like human testing on shit, right? And like all over the world basically. So like, it's not, I don't think it's hard to believe that, they've cloned people before, right? Whether or not, they've done the cloning and then like replaced figures or whatever the hell, like that's a whole other thing, right? I don't know anything about that, right? But I'm just talking simply about like the science behind it, right? Because if we can print, skin and organs and all this other shit, right? And we've been able to clone other animals, right? What's to say? And there's even been research recently, a while back, of like, I guess, like, people were able to like download skills into people's brains. Hold on, I gotta charge this. Oh, geez. Give me 1 second. I hate cables. They're all over the place. All right. Yeah. So there's been like apparently like research or whatever the hell where people have been able to like download scientists or whatever the hell have been able to like download skills, whatever that means, into people's brains, whether or not they stimulate like certain parts of the brain essentially into like simulate the same action. I think that's kind of like what they do. They've like scanned people's brains while they were doing this action or something like that, or I don't know, something where they basically stimulate the brain to where it like is a similar thing to actually doing the real thing or whatever the hell, right? And the people were noticeably better afterwards or some shit like that, right? So if they're doing shit like that, right, and they can kind of like fuck with and manipulate parts of the brain in order to like make you do this, that, or whatever, they're a little better or even at all, right? Then yeah, man, like I don't think it's too far off to believe that they're out here, not even cloning people necessarily, but I think like after a certain point, they figured out like, hey, you know what, we don't even need to clone people. And again, this is some nutty conspiracy type of shit, right? Because maybe I am gonna start to connect it to even crazier shit. But just this little part, right? I know it's already all a little nutty, but I don't know if you guys have heard those like reports, quote unquote, or stories of like people seeing like the Men in Black, right? And a lot of the reports recently, or in the not recently, but oh fuck, but in the recent years or whatever, which is like the past like 10 years or so, or whatever the hell, give or take more, right? Um, that people have been like, yeah, like they seen like these so-called Men in Black or whatever the hell, and anytime that people report about seeing these Men in Black or whatever, they're always talking about like, oh, these Men in Black are like they have no features, like they got no hair, they got no eyebrows, blah blah blah, right? They're featureless, they both like look the same, they move the same, blah blah blah, and all this other shit, right? And that kind of like, again, just on some, reaching shit, right? But, what if that, what if some of those happen to be, actual accounts, and maybe these people aren't necessarily describing exactly what they're seeing, right? Maybe what they think they're seeing is like, these aliens posing as humans or whatever are in a sense, what's it called? I'm losing the phrase, but the basically like the infamous, whatever the fuck, the homunculus or whatever the hell, right? What if, again, humans have figured out how to essentially print a person, and then upload it with a basic programming essentially that allows it to, move around, understand, follow through with tasks, report back with data, all this other shit, right? And they're essentially just kind of drones, biological drones, for a lack of a better word, right? because I guess I could have used the other one where I guess in recent times people have said the grays, supposedly those gray aliens or whatever the hell, right? They call them the grays. Like with the they're like shortish, and then they got like big heads and big eyes, and then they got like no genitalia, no hair, all that shit. There a lot of people are saying that, like, again with like our new technology, that like what if those grays aren't even aliens? What if those grays are biological entities that the real aliens created in order for them to do all the traveling and all the hard work, and be able to live through it instead of like having to go through such a long journey themselves, right? And then when they come back, they could use whatever advanced technology they have to kind of like get the data back from their brains or whatever the fuck, or maybe they just talk to them or some shit. I don't know. Um, but yeah, you know what I mean. It's one of those crazy things that's kind of been in my head recently, where I'm like, hey man, like they've got this technology, like what's stopping people really, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, laws, whatever, blah blah blah, right? But it's like, I mean, look at the history of the world, right? Like, the track record is not there. You know what I mean? It's just it's simply just not there. Like, it doesn't matter where you're looking at it from. That track record is not there, bro. And so, you know what I mean? You think about the people that are in these organizations, and you're like, hey, that's like just a person, man. That's like some dude from Delaware that grew up in like fucking, whatever the fuck, right? Or some dude from Jersey, or some dude, whatever the fuck, right? Like the people from all over, right? They're just people, right? So it's like some of these people are going to just, give into those human whatever the hells. And man, I don't know. So I just think about this shit, and I'm like, a lot of these crazy people, they sound crazy, until you start to think about, certain things in a certain way. And then it's like, well, they're not entirely wrong. Obviously, they're not right, right? By no means are they right, but there's unfortunately a level of merit to a lot of this crazy talk that you hear nowadays. And it's like, oh shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. All right, I used the jade elephant. I should be fucking fine. These stupid bitches. Oh shit, oh shit. Oh, they're clapping me. Oh no, they clapped my cheeks. Damn. But yeah, that's one of those things that I've thought about for a while now. Um, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys let me know in the comments, or the fucking chat or whatever the hell, Let me know. Because a lot of this shit racks my brain. By the way, guys, I actually I swear to you guys, like on, anything that I could swear, really. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know those are just words, right? But it's like, again, obviously we're all humans, right? So we all hold something dear to us, right? Like, even the most craziest fucking people like have some things that they hold dear to them, right? So, in those terms, right? Like whatever I hold dear, like I put it on that, you know what I mean? Like, I swear to you on everything that I hold dear. Like, I've seen a fucking UFO, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't think that shit is like of Earth origin type shit. Like, I don't think anybody, man made that shit. Maybe it is Earth origin on some crazy, other level conspiracy shit, where like, like they were right, like there used to be fucking lizard people and they were advanced or some shit. I don't know, you know what I mean? Some crazy shit like that, right? This is just some fucking crazy ass speculation, right? But I genuinely just don't believe that it was of Earth origin, because if any any of the systems that exist today had any of those technologies, like I don't think any of us as civilians or citizens or whatever the hell would be anywhere where we are at this moment. I believe that the shit that I saw that night, like the things that whatever the fuck that thing was in the sky was capable of, like that was No, man. Like we don't have that technology yet because again, like because of how people are, if people did have that technology, nah, dude, we would not be where we were at today in one shape, way or form or another. Like, you know what I mean? Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, like if people had that technology, nah, dude, that technology. Okay, so and I'm sorry because I'm just like thinking about it, right? I'm going through the moment in my head, and that night I was it was I think this was like my senior year. I was living in the well, I mean, I live in the Bay Area or whatever the hell. So I was in the Bay Area at the time, and I was looking up at the sky because I was outside with my cousin. My cousin came over that night, I think, for like a sleepover or something like that. Like, we were still teens or whatever technically, and obviously not really doing drugs or anything like that. So that's kind of the stuff you do back then. Drugs, drinking, or anything like that, right? So we were just, having a sleepover, playing video games, all that shit. This was at a time where he had his first girlfriend. He had his first girlfriend, I'm pretty sure, yeah, before me or some shit, yeah. I don't think I had a girlfriend before. Oh no, no, yeah. I think I no, that didn't even really count. I had a girlfriend like middle school for like a week or two or something. Then they broke up with me because I wasn't being like publicly affectionate enough or whatever. But that's kind of besides the point. Whatever. Yeah. So he was talking to his first like real girlfriend, I guess, and as one does when they are with their first real girlfriend, right? You're just kind of constantly on your phone talking to them, like, "Oh, I love you, I love you more," well, whatever the fuck, right? Whatever you're doing when you're with your first partner, whatever the hell, right? And so yeah, like we're chilling, we're playing video games, and I think it was like pretty hot inside, so we decided to go outside to just kind of like chill out and just kind of like talk shit and just kind of like go back and forth like that. And I was just looking up at the sky because again he was like buried in his phone. And I'm just talking to him. I mean, I'm basically talking at him at this point, because again, he's not really responding because he's like talking to his girl. And I forget. I honestly forget exactly what the hell we were talking about because pretty much the next moment, kind of like fuck, removed everything else before that out of my head. But we're just talking shit, and I'm starting to look up at the sky because again, I'm noticing that he's just not replying, as much as I'd like or whatever, or not really being in the moment, of the conversation or whatever. And I'm looking at the stars because I'm just like, oh wow, it's pretty. And I've seen I had seen like I guess what is it? Comets, meteorites, shooting stars, whatever the hell you call them, little shooting stars before, right? In the past, like if I'd looked up long enough, I would see little streaks like in the sky, and I'd be like, oh, sick, like what I mean? That's pretty cool. So I was essentially trying to do that and just kind of like see if I could see any little shooting stars or whatever in the sky that night. And yeah, I started to look at this one star, and it looked really bright, and I was like, oh, okay, like that's a really bright star. Like, is that like what is it, like Sirius, right? Or like what is it, the North Star, Polaris, or whatever the hell? One of those stars that's hella bright, right? I was like, oh, it's probably that star, right? And then I like looked up and I was like looking at the positions because I think at that point I kind of knew the star stuff a little better. So I was like looking at the position of the stars, and I was like, no, that's the star over there. I was like, that's the one right there. I was like, then what's that one, right? And I think I even brought out my little like night sky app or whatever, and I don't think I saw like what it was on the night sky app. I was like, okay, that's definitely not a star. So I was like, okay, at this point, I'm thinking like, well, what the hell is that, right? Because it's like pretty fucking bright, like, and now it makes sense that it's not a star because it's like it was really bright, right? Like brighter than any star could be. um, I at least I think, right? And so sorry, I was my fault. I got caught in that little story. I forgot to start the game. But I'm looking at this thing and I'm starting to, trying to rationalize it in my mind. At first, I'm like, oh, okay, if it's not a star, then it's probably, I think I've seen this like a, sort of phenomenon before, this sort of effect, visual effect, right? I was thinking it's probably an airplane coming like towards me pretty much, right? Like it's the direction that it's flying is like essentially right towards me, so I'm not really seeing any other parts of the plane. I'm seeing like the headlights, and that's why it looks like it's not moving because it's coming straight. And I'm sitting there thinking that, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, okay, that makes sense, right? And after a while, the light in the sky starts moving, right? But oh, geez, have I not had audio on this whole time either? Hold on, what the hell? Holy shit! Sorry, chat. What do you mean? Oh man, dude, I didn't even have the audio on this whole time. I'm fucking tripping. It was just me fucking yapping. Sorry about that, y'all. Fucking yeah, so I'm looking at this sky. I'm looking at the light in the sky, right? And yeah, it starts moving, but the intensity of the light doesn't change, right? So it's like if you were looking at the headlights of anything, right? Like if they started to turn, you would stop seeing the lights because the lights are only in the front. This thing started moving, and the same intensity of light was throughout the thing, right? Like it just stayed consistent, right? And so now I'm looking, like thinking, like, oh, okay, like, well, what the hell, like, what is this thing, right? Because it's going, it's moving now, it's going in a different direction, but it's not, changing, the light pattern or whatever the hell, right? And I think like kind of before I knew it, it started going back and forth, right? But kind of, and the best way that I've heard this described before is kind of like a mouse cursor, or like if you had like a laser pointer, pointed at like, a whiteboard or whatever. Like the way that it's moving was like very fluid and like very quick back and forth in the sky, right? Like the turns that it was making would not be possible to be taken from like a regular airplane, let alone like a jet, right? And even if it was like a jet, I was thinking at the moment, I was like, it would be, like if it was going that fast, like I would hear that shit, right? Like that would make some sort of noise, right? And so I'm just trying to rationalize what it could be, right? I'm going through all the different things. I'm like, is it a helicopter? But again, no, if it was a helicopter, I'd be able to hear like the, beat of the wings or whatever, right? Even a drone or something, right? I'd be able to hear like the, right? Because it was a quiet night. That night was pretty quiet. Like there was no really like, noise from anything else in the night or anything like that. And so I'm just looking at this thing and I'm like, going through every option, before I start landing on things like, oh, maybe it's like a meteorite, But again, I'm like, no, like a meteorite's not going to go back and forth like this, you know what I mean? And it's not like, coming down either. It's like staying up in the sky, like, so at that point, I start thinking like, wait a minute, like, this thing is like moving pretty fucking crazy, right? Like, and it's not making any noise. Like, so my only other rationalization is that whatever this thing isn't in the atmosphere. It's like outside of the atmosphere. It's in like space pretty much, right? So I'm just like, wait, what the fuck? So I'm just looking at this thing, and I start, reaching towards my cousin, and I'm like, hey dude, like, hey, there's something fucking, moving up in the sky, dude. There's some weird shit up in the sky, dude. Like, look, like, please look, because this shit is like crazy. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck it is. And he's just like, hold on, like I'm texting, you know what I mean? And like he's like buried in his fucking phone with his first girlfriend, and I'm just like, dude, like, please, look up, right? And right before he looks up, right, this thing, like, it's going back and forth, right? And, like, it sort of stops for, like, half a second in the sky, right? And as it does that, like, the very, next split, whatever the hell second, right? Like, this shit just goes, like it does, like, a zigzag, like, up and down, like up, like, down, up, down, whatever, to like from the way I was looking at it, it went from left to right. So it did this like zigzag up and down pattern in this like short sort of distance in the sky. I mean, like, from where I was looking, I mean, you know what I mean, like, up in the sky, I would say it was probably about the width of like my thumb or something like that, right? Like if I was to sort of measure it that way, right? And it did this like zigzag sort of pattern before it sort of zipped out, and like it like left a streak of zip, like so it was like oh man, hold on. If I could draw this, dude, I'm gonna hold on, because I think I can. I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna close this up real quick, and then we're gonna, what is it? This TV. Is TV not working? How are you not? Come on, man. All right. So, we're going to open up the little paint, right? Because I have to, dude, I have to, like, explain this properly. Paint. Do I have paint? Yeah, paint. Here we go. So, open up paint. Drag it up here. Oh. Whoops. All right. And then, so yeah, it did like this, and it was like a yellow, like, you know what I mean, color, right? So it stopped, and then it went like something like that, you know what I mean, in the sky, and then it went, and it like had little like little sparks, like little little like, you know, I don't know how to do sparks. I'm not so good with sparks. You know, little sparks that it left over in the those are a little better. I should have probably stuck to those. Like little sparks afterwards, and then yeah, it was just gone, out of existence. This light, you know, whatever the hell, and that's pretty much how it kind of, you know, looked in you know, it was just like this little ball of light, kind of like one of the, but you know, like it left sparks. It left sparks in the sky, dude. It was fucking crazy. It's probably, hold on, maybe it's not such a good color to use. Here, let me. It was yellow-ish or whatever, orange-ish, right? So orange, we'll probably do a little orange. No, that's not as good. So we'll just stick to like the red. So yeah, I did like a zigzag, and then it went, and then it left like sparks, in residual sparks, like after it was gone. For like a split second, there was these little like sparks going throughout like the atmosphere or whatever the fuck, the in the space that it had just traveled. There was like these leftover sparks for just like a split second. They were like popping or whatever. And I was like, yo, what the fuck? That shit blinked out of existence. And, you know, it did that zigzag thing, and I always wondered, like, okay, why did it do that zigzag thing, right? Like, why did it zigzag like that? Like, was it trying to, like, show off? Like, no, these things wouldn't show off, would they? I mean, maybe, like, I guess if it's, like, a biological-ish entity, or, I don't know, whatever the fuck, right? But then I started thinking about, I don't know if you guys have ever heard that one guy, fucking, what's his name, Bob Lazar. He supposedly claimed that, like, you know, he was working on, like, this crazy, like, UFO, spaceship, this or that, or whatever. And the reason I bring him up is, no, I don't want to save this. The reason I bring him up is because, what's his face? He brought up how basically the engine or whatever the hell that he, hold on, sorry, I forgot to make this bigger for myself because I'm playing it on a small screen. Okay. Yeah, he basically said that apparently, like, I guess the engine was like a gravity warping sort of thing, right? So he was saying that it like squeezed like the space in front of them or whatever the hell, right? And then like it like sort of like stretched it back out to like slingshot them or whatever the hell. And you know, that kind of got me thinking, like, holy shit, maybe that's what that was, right? Like, what the fuck? Like, because maybe it wasn't going in a zigzag. Maybe what I was seeing was it folding space up, right? And the effect, the visual artifact that I saw was me essentially, you know, visualizing that as a zigzag. But it wasn't a zigzag. That was actually folded space that it was traveling straight through. But because the space was folded, to me it looked like a zigzag. And then that straight line was when it unfolded the space. And then fucking, you know, those leftover sparks were, you know, obviously because that's a fucking massive amount of energy, there were still sparks left over or whatever, right? So it's like, And I'm just like, no, dude, like that had to have been what that shit is, dude. Like that damn near like perfectly, fits in with what I saw that night. Holy shit, man. Like, that was some crazy shit. Like I've ever since that day, like I don't know, man. I'm not gonna lie, my life kind of changed. Kind of fucking crazy. Not in like a, anything sort of crazy way, but just sort of like the mentality that I carried on with me throughout that time. Oh fuck! I keep dying. Like, no, dude, there's definitely fucking crazy. Like, there's a universe out there, dude. Like, I totally am a firm believer at this point that, dude, there is something going on out there, dude. Like, not like, super, like, I don't carry myself like that, like, I'm like, or whatever the hell, but like, in the back of my mind, like, I fucking know, dude. Like, there's some deep shit out there in the fucking universe, dude. Like, there's. And maybe I'm like, obviously romanticizing it a little bit, but like I can't imagine that there's not some sort of like galactic fucking, Federation type shit, right? Like there's gotta be a fucking again, if this is a near infinite universe, like yes, we are like empty as far as we could see, but you would expect that from a near infinite universe, right? Just as much as you'd expect areas that are nearly infinitely populated, right? So it's like, dude, man, oh my fucking god, dude. Like there's some shit out there, dude. That night I saw some real shit, dude. Like, and that shit kind of woke me up like in some crazy way, dude. Like I fully 100 fucking percent. And the craziest fucking thing is that like I tried like looking up the next day pretty much like if anybody had seen anything like in the sky as well, and no, dude, like fucking I didn't see any reports of any kind of crazy shit like that. But I don't know. I mean, I also guess like maybe I don't know what I would be looking for either, but dude, man, there's some shit out there, dude. There's some shit. All right, give me one brief second. We will go into like a bit of an intermission real